Ben. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Richards. I'm the Technical Services Manager of the Managing General Agents Association. And on behalf of the MGAA, I'd like to welcome you to our briefing this afternoon. This is being delivered by Mulberry Risk on the subject of leading the charge with the UN Sustainability Goals. Before I introduce our presenter, I'd just like to run through a few housekeeping points. Firstly, please ensure your microphone and camera are switched off. If you would like to ask a question, feel free to use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. Time allowing, these will be asked at the end of the event. If we run out of time, questions will be answered post-event. This presentation is accredited for CPD points if relevant to your ongoing professional development programme. This briefing is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be issued post-event together with our feedback survey. Please take the time to complete our survey, which will take no longer than 2 minutes. This does allow us to deliver the best possible future events to our membership. So today's briefing is on the subject of leading the charge with the UN Sustainability Goals from Mulberry Risk. So let me introduce you to our presenter, David Hughes, CEO and founder of Mulberry Risk. With over 25 years of global insurance experience, David is recognised as a leader in pricing and underwriting. David established Mulberry Risk to provide pricing and portfolio services to the MGA market at an affordable cost. This has expanded into supporting insurers with pricing challenges. David has been a senior pricing actuary at Beazley, Navigators and ACE. He initiated AIG's European Technical Pricing Framework in 2012 and has supported many London market insurers, including MS Amlin, Chaucer and Arch. So without further ado, enjoy the briefing, everyone, and over to you, David.
Thank you, Tim. This time last year, I was walking in a town called Saffron Walden with my daughter, and we often just mull around the shops, and she's 13 years old. And in one of the charity shops was a model of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And here is that actual model. Well, she wasn't pink, and it is a she because we called her Tracy. She wasn't pink, but she's been turned pink because we've mulberryfied her. And as we're walking out of the shop, my daughter looked up to me, and I could see she was going to ask me a difficult question. Daddy, why are there no more dinosaurs in the world? Well, Cressida, that the theory is that a big meteor came and hit the Earth and disrupted our climate to such an extent that they died. They didn't have food and it was too cold. Is that a good enough explanation? But Daddy, so there's no meteor now. So why are we destroying the Earth? That's a complex thing to answer. I suppose we are trying things, aren't we? Our governments are meeting. We've got COP coming in later in the year, where all the big heads of states are meeting to try and find solutions. But Daddy, with COVID, the world pulled together and got solutions and fixed it. I know it's not that simple. Daddy, it is. You're just making excuses. And with that, she firmly put me in my place and left a challenge deep inside me. Hello, everyone. And thank you for that very kind introduction, Tim. Yes, I am David Hughes, CEO, co-founder of Mulberry. At Mulberry, we support MGAs. We have our digital platform, Ada, and we have a team of actuaries and data analysts. We're a very young company. Our developers average 27 years old. Our analysts are averaging around 26, 27-year-olds. We have some old heads in the business like mine, but on average, we've got really bright and young and energetic people in the business. And they really care about issues, just like my daughter raised in that short opening. And this set me off on a challenge to understand what more I could do, what I could influence. And this presentation today is about sharing part of that journey with you, but also tying in some other parts. So we're going to cover 3 things today. The first I'm going to give is an introduction to the UN Sustainability Goals and why I'm presenting to you about them today and about the framework. The next part, I'm going to give you an update about these sustainability goals. Post-COVID and the wars globally, especially as we're all very much aware around the Ukrainian war. And then finally, we're going to talk about the future. And it's the future where there's some really exciting things to look to. And I'll be sharing a report that was produced by a very good friend of mine at Startup Sherpas, and some of the extracts around that which talk about the future and from our youngsters. Underpinning these 3 topics, we will be looking at the relevance of insurance, the relevance of sustainability, and also the relevance of your businesses, MGAs, and how it all ties together. But actually, I'm not the expert in relevance. And what I'd like to do is hand over to David Howden, who was interviewed and presented amazingly at the MGA conference last year. So
I think if you look at the development of the insurance market, the critical thing for us is to stay relevant. How do we stay relevant to clients that are worrying about supply chains, clients that are worrying about climate risk, clients that are worrying about what happens to inflation? So our job is to remain relevant for our clients, providing them with solutions. And to me, MGAs are critical in that because they're great innovators.
So just bring you back in the room here. So as David says, the big challenge for insurers and insurance profession is about staying relevant. He mentions climate change. But as you recall the opening sketch there with my daughter, I mentioned the word complexity. And I found it an incredibly complex topic because there's more than around sustainability than just activists about gluing yourself to the M25 and causing chaos. There's more to it about replacing our petrol cars. And I didn't discover this until very recently. And I picked up a book. And the book was by an author called Daniel Priestley. And it's called The 24 Assets. And I'm running a small business, building a small business. And in the back, what Daniel Priestley does, he's a small business advisor, and he talks about building all these assets. And one of the assets he really wants you to do is build an asset around sustainability. And he referenced the UN Sustainability Goals. It's the first time I'd come across it. And he wants any business that he works with as a consultant to adopt one of the 17 goals and bring that into your business and make commitments to supporting that goal. The way he phrases this is that he works with hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of small businesses through his books, through his direct consultancy work and his conferences. So if he can influence each one of those small businesses just to adopt something to support sustainability, he'll be making a change and an impact. These are the UN Sustainability Goals. And we're not going to go into each one, don't worry. That'll take all afternoon. But I just want to give you a bit of background about the Sustainability Goals and why they're produced. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainability Development was adopted by all UN member states in 2015. It provides an adopted blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. What's important about this is that the goals recognize that these wonderful humanitarian goals of ending poverty and other deprivation must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and finally, most important, spur economic growth. It's very clearly stated here that sustainability is not at the cost of economic growth. And whilst doing all of this, tackle climate change and work to preserve our oceans and forests. There are some challenges, though, with the UN sustainability goals. When they were adopted in 2015, progress was being made. And if you go into the UN website, you can Google UN sustainability goals, you'll see each year they give an annual report on progress. And in the early years, 2015, 16, 17, great progress. But of course, then the 2019, beginning of 2020, COVID hit us, lockdowns. And that had a massive impact, detrimental impact on the goals. But before I go into that, I just want to pick up the point around the diversity of these goals. So over here, we have no poverty. So that's number one goal. Zero hunger. So these are goals you'd expect in the sustainability goals. Good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. Affordable and clean energy. Now we're starting to get into economic growth. Decent work in economic growth. Industry, innovation and infrastructure. Those three sustainability goals are about development, about industry, about growth, about building things. And all of these need insurance for support. And we can go through and pick more and more. And finally, number 17, which is one of my favorites, is about partnerships to support the goals. And I can't see a better partner than the insurance industry to support various goals in here. And the role of the MGA in the insurance world is key to this. As David Howden said in that video, in that introduction, MGAs are incredibly agile and entrepreneurial businesses. You know that, you work in MGAs or you work with MGAs. You can implement things quickly. The behemoth insurance industry, insurance companies really struggle to turn and change and create innovation. That's why we see InsurTech MGAs emerging. We see new approaches being developed in MGAs, much more less restrained and much more able to twist and turn and meet innovation needs and be agile around that. So not only has the insurance industry got a big role in supporting the establishment and the development of the sustainability goals, I believe that insurance is relevant, and that relevance comes through MGAs. We've gone through a brief introduction to the UN sustainability goals, sometimes a bit of a mouthful. And I'd really encourage you to go in and explore each one of those tiles and find the one that resonates with you. At Mulberry, we hold what we call strategy days, once every 3 months. And last year, we held a survey within the company to find out which our employees would like to support, which goals they would like to support. And one of the things that really came through was some of the passion for these goals. So we asked people if they wanted to present their case, they could. They could pick a goal and start talking about it. And I'll pick one of the goals, which is the industry, innovation and infrastructure goal. And so Ollie Harrison, who's my Chief Technology Officer, leads our development team. And as I said, they're a young team. And he pulled out the industry, innovation and infrastructure goal. And he said, David and the team, I joined Mulberry 2 years ago. I wasn't working insurance. I didn't really know insurance apart from I have to insure my house and my car and looking at life insurance for the mortgage. That's about it. And having come into Mulberry and seeing the MGA world, and particularly seeing the London market, it really opened my eyes to the good that insurance does, the enabler that insurance is, the function it allows, whether it's researching new drugs into trials, whether it's allowing the building of infrastructure, whether it's allowing the support of new clean industries. I'm really proud, and these were absolutely his words, I'm really proud to be working in the insurance industry. And I'd like to support the industry innovation and infrastructure goals because I believe it makes a great fit. How often do you hear people in the insurance industry talk about being proud, let alone young, new joiners into the industry and being illuminated, lit up by this? And that's where the goals really started to come in. Going back to David Howard again, the relevance of insurance. But it's not just relevance to our clients and the insurance market, it's relevance to future employees, current employees, making them proud to be part of this market. I mentioned that every year the UN produces an update around the sustainability goals, and we are rapidly approaching the deadline for 2030 when they wanted to hit various milestones. And the last report, I'm afraid, is really sad to hear. And we'll just go through a couple of extracts from that report. Goal number 8 is about promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. That's a great goal. I mean, and you can see already the relevance of insurance to supporting that goal. But the findings in the report, these are just the headlines, and I'd really recommend downloading the report. Economic recovery, global economic recovery, as we know, is being really hampered by new waves of COVID-19. It's also being hampered by the impacts of COVID-19. Significant global inflation. We're seeing supply chain disruption. Supply chains have always been a massive benefit of insurance protection. And actually, the days when I used to work at AIG in Marsh, it wasn't just insurance, it was the expertise the insurance industry can deploy to help protect supply chains. There's uncertainties around policies created by governments, and there's change around that as well. We know we've got a changing world, work from home, and also more and more wars happening. And this puts us into labour market challenges. We've got imbalance, we've got immigration, all these world events are happening, which are really slowing down this economic recovery, which impacts this goal number 8. When we look at the first goal, which is the poverty goal, eliminate poverty, I'll just leave that there for you to read. I think that's depressing. And what can we do about this? Well, it's very hard as an individual to make big changes. But when we tie into global recovery and sustainability, we can see ways of supporting this. And I believe MGAs have a role in terms of innovation. I'll give you an idea here. This is the seed that I've heard before. And when we look at poverty, and we said, let's take countries like Africa, where we know there's droughts, there's poverty, there's war. And we all remember, we're all aware of, not all remember actually, I'm starting to show my age a little bit, the Live Aid concert back in the 80s and raising the funds there for famine in Ethiopia. But what can insurance do to help combat that? Well, we can innovate. As MGAs, we can innovate. So there's new technologies emerging, blockchain. Now, You may not be, you probably no doubt have heard of blockchain with a cryptocurrency, but blockchain is incredibly powerful. It creates an immutable database, which is basically a chain, and it's distributed over a number of computers. So if someone tries to change it, that computer, and it's not authorized, it can't be changed. What we call a mutable data source. In Africa, we have really low penetration of PCs, computers. What they do have is incredibly high penetration of smartphones. And smartphones, as we know, are sophisticated. And the technology is there now to have what's called a serverless blockchain. What this means is a blockchain hosted on mobile phones. And they could be hosted locally, and they could be hosted in a large space. This allows easy administration of database software. What it also allows is now we could start creating micro insurance solutions and be creative about it. Crop insurance, famine insurance, different ideas and coming up with innovation tied in with the technology, because the technology is there now to enable this to happen. And again, making insurance relevant and using latest technology and our insurance expertise and producing solutions. And guess what? There can be profit in there as well, because you're pooling risk and you're delivering a service. At Mulberry, we have 3 values. Our first value is about the team and people. We really care about people in our business. Our second value is about innovation. We're an innovative company and we're always looking to innovate, particularly building solutions for our clients. But the third value, the most important value for a lot of us, as well as those other 2 values, is about learning, continuous learning and development. We have a number of people in the business who have got postgraduate degrees, they're training to be actuaries, qualified actuaries, many different qualifications, and are continuously learning and developing. We have an ethos at Mulberry about continuous learning and development. This is goal number 4, which is about learning and education, availability for all. And the impact of COVID-19 has really deepened the global learning crisis. I mean, I'll read this out because I find this heart-crushingly depressing statistic. And I always think about, my children, and I look at them, I can now picture my daughter in that conversation and how privileged they are. 147 million children missed over half of in-person instruction. And there's more statistics which are even more heartbreaking around this. So how do we build a future for these children? How do we promote growth in education? And surely there's a role for insurance here as well, to help provide a safety net, a support structure. And it can be commercial and you can develop products around this, but you can also support it in different ways. So we can see that the elements of the UN sustainability goals have been badly hit. And if you read it as well, there's the impact of wars. The world hasn't been in such violent turmoil since the Second World War. And we know, we're all very aware of the Ukraine war and the impact that that's having on promote and pushing inflation, the increased immigration, the challenges that's creating around the world. It feels really grim and downbeat, and I'm sorry about that. But again, I'm hoping that you can start seeing the relevance of insurance to underpinning each of these goals. Now we're going to look forward. And we're going to look forward with the help of a friend of mine. And I'll give you his details. Hugo. Hugo is the founder of a business, a consultancy called Startup Sherpas. And they commissioned a report last year, 2022, sponsored by Aviva, to canvass a group of what you call Generation Alpha. This is the next generation coming through. You know, these are, I think, from age of 14 and under. And they've got 100 of these individuals, youngsters between the ages of 10 and 14. And they got them into a workshop for a few days and got them thinking about ideas. But they asked them some other questions as well. And they produced a great report. And I'll give you Hugo's details at the end, because I'd really recommend contacting him for this report. It's awe-inspiring, and it's one of the best reports I've read. So I think, Hugo, you've done an amazing job, you and your team. One of the first questions they asked this group, and they're all from diverse backgrounds, they're from different parts of the country, and as I said, the ages are 10 to 14. So these really are the future coming through. And they said, what do you see the world like in 2071 when you come to retire or when you're in your older age? They drew pictures. This is quite scary to me. An idea of overpopulation, burning fires, the world in 2071, and quite daunting. This is another picture. This is, a really stark picture, pollution, but actually, there's a brand name here, and I think might have trademarked it. But actually, what I find encouraging about this picture, though, is that they're thinking we're going to have technological solutions to sort our challenges out with the climate. The climate, the world, and those inhabited, both the people, the animals, and life on the planet, is really critical, and that came through in the report. But the purpose of this was to get an understanding of what they see. And there was something really stark that came out, particularly when they started to ask about professions and the understanding of industry. And insurance, as always in these surveys, becomes very low. And they worked with these 100 youngsters. And I should have got Hugo onto this to really explain it better. I'm thinking about the future of insurance and how it's relevant to them. And I'm going to share 3 ideas that came out of this. And I'm not going to share too much because you need to go get the report. But effectively, there's a choice to be made. Which will your company be? And I love this graphic that Hugo produced. We have a choice. Are we going to be a trusted partner, a financial partner, to support and help manage the risk of generations now and into the future? Is that how we want to be seen? Or are we going to be seen as this dark institution that is just money grabbing and will do anything in its power just to make a profit out of you without delivering value and a service? Because if you look at brands around the world now, brands want to be this. Our great brands, if they're this, they disappear very quickly now. And we can see that in examples of businesses, big brands that have fallen over. Of course, everyone around this call wants to be on this side. We want to make that choice. And again, I go back to MGAs. MGAs are brands. We've got a number of clients who are brands in their industry, in their world. We've got one that provides insurance that helps support the development of wind farms, releases investment of that. It's incredibly proud. I love having them as a client. We're incredibly proud to have them as a client. We've got another client that is launching motor insurance products, which is more fit for purpose around meeting the needs of the drivers. And we're seeing accident health products emerging as well, which meet these needs. These are brands, and all MGA brands, that are fitting in this space. And we have the ability as MGAs, as small, agile businesses, to really move to this. We don't have to be this. And there's an opportunity for insurers as well. Many insurers are seen as Darth Vader. There's an opportunity working with MGAs. You can rehabilitate your image. You can hijack the MGA's image. And I think this starts pushing us back into the relevance of the MGA to the insurance market and the value of that brand that the MGAs bring to insurers. I mentioned that there are a number of really good insights coming out of this report. And one of the things they wanted to do with this group of youngsters is to get an idea of what they think insurance could offer them in their lifetime. Now, another benefit of choosing that age group of youngsters is they haven't been too indoctrinated in our schooling system. So they've still got loads of creativity. But also Generation Alpha are, they all have phones. They're all smartphone savvy. They're all TikTok enabled, and some of them shouldn't be on there, but they are. And they're incredibly creative. They make videos of each other and their friends and can edit them all on their phone. It's an amazing creative generation that will be coming through. And I'm very excited about it. But what did this creative generation see that they think insurance would be value for them? Well, the first, digital assets. And I'm sure you probably would have guessed that. Computer games, being able to insure, let's say, on Minecraft, where there have been things that have been built. Can you insure your Minecraft digital assets, tokens you build up in the game world? There's a lot of money invested in games now. And other digital assets too, your TikTok videos, your creation. Can you insure the liability arising out of that and your reputation? These are all ideas that were flooding through and give great opportunity to innovative insurance businesses to look at and produce products that will provide that protection. These are new emerging risks that are hard for us to see, but actually they're there. And the role of the MGA, the relevance of the MGA is here to take advantage of. We have the value of education. So we know education is expensive now. I've got 3 children and my eldest is finishing his A-levels next year. So that means for him, he's looking at university. And it's expensive. There's a big investment into university. And the younger generation know this. But there's alternatives as well. So they're looking at university as not as definitely the path they're going to go down. They're looking at where they want to invest. So let's say you invest £50,000 to go into university. How can you guarantee the return on that investment? If we invest in other areas, we can buy insurance to protect that investment, but not with insurance, not with education. And you could do other courses as well, online MBAs. How does that course give you that return? Does it help you get you step into that career? Or does it all go wrong? And these are the questions that this generation are thinking about. I'm going to have to invest. Can I get insurance that I have the liability, but I don't get the asset coming out the back end of it? And then finally, they had 10 brilliant ideas, and I'm just sharing some of the, give you a high level view of the 3. The value of creations. The generation that's coming through are so incredibly creative. And they're always creating digital assets. They're creating things left, right, and center. They'll be creating solutions. If you go back to that picture, the world, the climate change, pollution, they will be creating solutions, mechanical solutions for that. So how do we ensure those creations? Because we're in a world today where any individual can create. You can create a fantastic TikTok that can go viral for 1 million views instantly. How do you create that value? We have digital tokens, all these things that people are creating that have an insurable value in there. And Bitcoin. We've seen the collapse of Bitcoin as cyber currency recently. So again, cryptocurrency. So there's areas of value creation which have been created in a different way, rather than physical asset, a digital asset, or even the IP around their creativity. That doesn't get stolen. If it does, you have insurance protected to protect the value of that creation. These are ideas from this younger generation. These are ideas that will spur economic growth and development. Just give you a bit of a recap. We introduced the UN Sustainability Goals, showed how diverse they are, the 17 goals. gave you a bit of a dire update on them. But actually, with the work that Startup Sherpa has done, Hugo's team, we have a future generation and future opportunities for more growth, more development, and sustainable development that will help eliminate and get the growth towards these sustainability goals. So the future can be bright. But I wanted to share with you the role that insurance has here and increasing that relevance and picking up that challenge. I'm just going to put behind me so you can take a note of it. Hugo's, I'll probably just need to move that across a little bit. Hugo's contact details. He's available on LinkedIn. He's a fantastic creative future visionary. And if you want a copy of that report, please contact him to get a copy. And just to finish up, we've all been at cocktail parties or dinner party with friends, and you get introduced to someone new, and you get asked the question, what do you do? And certainly when I was an actuary, it was an incredibly difficult question to answer. And I'd always sort of say, I'm an actuary, which is an insurance mathematician. And people sort of disappear. But you could say you work in insurance, and you could be proud of that. And I'd pick up Ollie Harrison's comment about being proud of working in insurance, because insurance underpins the economic growth, the development that is necessary to make our world a sustainable place. And we can encourage people into our industry and make them proud of it by sharing that. We can build products that support that. And we can encourage the future development and the exciting future that those youngsters are painting, not the terrible pictures, but the bright future pictures, and create products that meet their needs. And ultimately, I see the relevance of MGAs being the leaders in this space. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. We've got no questions as yet, so everyone might have been really riveted on that and not had a chance to type them in yet. So let's give everyone around about a minute or so to type in any questions, or indeed if you want to come off mute and just ask them verbally. So I'll just wait a minute or so for that.
It's always a very quiet time, this, isn't it?
And a minute goes slowly as well.
One thing, I suppose, a question that I got asked when I presented this in a small group, personal group, when I was practicing some of the things was, what does this mean in terms of capacity for MGAs? And about being, we talk about, we know ESG, environmental sustainable goals and development and governance goals are important about your business. But we are now seeing companies who are providing capacity to MGAs place a relevance on that business. And as I mentioned, we've got a client who does provide insurance in the renewable energy sector. And they are of keen interest to insurers provide capacity to, because it starts helping them change their business models. When we start thinking about the Yoda versus Darth Vader, which side do you want to be? Do you want to be on the good or the bad? Well, we know insurers have investments in industries that are seen as unpopular and against a lot of the sustainability goals, but we can't just change that overnight. So we can see that they also provide underwriting into those sectors as well. So MGAs are incredibly well positioned. And my advice is, as an MGA, to attract some of the emerging capacity coming onto the market from some of the really top insurers who are re-entering the MGA market and alternative capital, that they are looking for how you can support sustainability. Now, they're not tying up to the UN goals, but I think the UN Sustainability Goal Framework is a great one that you can look at and adopt an element And it's such a diverse framework that it's not all about pollution. It's not all about the environment. You can pick something that your business can support, and that can be a really good mark supporting your ESG, but really about capacity. And as these new capital markets are coming into the industry, they'll help you stand out. And likewise, the fight for talent, which I know is a big thing that David Howden often talks about in his presentations. That fight for talent is key as well. So, yeah, and I think it's such a divergent space that you can pick the thing that has most relevance to you to help make your business relevant.
Thanks again, David. No questions. So that's obviously covered everything in a nutshell. So just say thanks so much, David, for your presentation today, which I'm sure everyone will agree has been fascinating, timely, and genuinely illuminating. So it's been an excellent presentation, which I've really enjoyed. So thanks also to all of you for joining us. Please don't forget to provide your feedback when you receive the email, and do look out for forthcoming MGAA events. I hope you have a productive afternoon. Thanks again for joining us, and see you all soon.